Hello and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk Cloud ERP. This special edition podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Let's Talk Data podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Frank McGrory. We have a great conversation planned for everyone. Today, I'm going to speak with Liam Durbin, the CIO of the Marzetti Company. Liam and I are going to start off with a brief history on the Marzetti Company and how it got its start over 100 years ago. Then you're all in for a treat. Liam and I are going to talk about everything from Marzetti's CEO mandate to move to the cloud, Liam's unique role as the CIO and the leader of their organization's Center of Excellence, a play on words and something Liam calls the Office of No, all culminating into a no excuses project using RISE with SAP. Let's dig in. Welcome, Liam.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Well, I thought it was pretty cool when we were talking, and then I did a little history about the Marzetti Company. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how Marzetti got its start over 100 years ago?
Sure. It's a pretty cool story and a pretty cool company, and it still has very much, our roots are evident in the way we behave. 1896, Italian immigrants, Joseph and Teresa Marzetti, moved to the Columbus area, and Teresa is considered sort of the foremother, I guess is the term, the founding mother of the company. Her restaurant down on Indianola Avenue became very popular, I understand, with OSU students. Eventually became a 4-star restaurant, and what set them apart was her salad dressings, to the point that people would buy bottles of it to take home with them when they left the restaurant. And eventually, the second floor of the restaurant became a full-scale production operation for their emerging dressing business. We still have historical objects around the building, like the original sign from the restaurant is here at 380 Players Parkway. And, and the family feel of the company is still very strong. We actually have one employee we're about to recognize soon who's been with the company 60 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, a lot of long tenured people and a lot of loyalty and a lot of passion for the customers is still part of our culture.
Well, I love the coolest part about the history of this is that it's Teresa Marzetti's name that's kind of all over the history. And I love that, even in 1896, at the turn of that century, there was women in leadership. That's so cool to me.
You might not know this, but one of our brands we own is a dinner rolls, which is our bread business, if you will. That one of our biggest customers is Chick-fil-A, and we make the little breakfast minis, the bread for those.
Oh, minis. Right.
And that business was also founded by a woman. The label is called Sister Schubert's, and she's still around. She's a fantastic person. So 2 of our largest brands were both founded by women.
That's awesome. I think that's pretty cool. So then let's fast forward. You mentioned Chick-fil-A. You've got a couple different brands. One of your favorite brands that you manufacture and sell is one of my children's favorite sauces to use. And tell us a little bit about how the different parts of Marzetti. That's pretty cool.
Well, you can talk to people a long time about what you do and things you think are significant, but the moment you mention that we make Chick-fil-A sauce, they're like, oh, now that's something interesting to me.
Right.
It is pretty good, and we are their primary provider for that. Marzetti's pretty cool. I mean, we're almost $2 billion now in revenue, which is a good-sized company. So it's just amazing, just the volume of dressing that we produce in any given year, and the volume of bread products. We're almost evenly split between food service and retail. So you walk around the grocery stores, you see our dressings and sauces on the shelves and in the frozen food section. And then also if you go to almost, I shouldn't say every, but let's just say probably the majority of large chains in the U.S., we also make their dressings and sauces for them. I think what sets...
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say what I think sets us apart is a little bit, we also have the ability to partner with them to come up with concepts. So it isn't just they come to us and say, hey, we have this idea for this sauce, and can you make it? It is, hey, we'd like your opinion on what sauces might be great. And then we partner with them through our innovation center to come up with some great new ideas.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And then another really cool thing that I found, one of your most exotic things that you produce is caviar. How did that get started? Exotic. Maybe exotic's not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Something on the higher end.
It's not obviously a large revenue portion of our business, but it's profitable and the margins are good, and there aren't a lot of people doing it. I honestly don't know when it was acquired, but we've been doing the caviar business for a while. I've never been to the facility. I probably should get there and check it out just because it's probably going to be an amazing facility.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, primarily we also have a pasta business, which is very, which does quite well, a frozen pasta business. Of late, we've been very fortunate. Our food service business, it brings people in, and then we have had the opportunity to go and do some licensing opportunities. That's why you see Chick-fil-A dressings on grocery store shelves, and Buffalo Wild Wings and Olive Garden. So those licensing opportunities have been great opportunities for us, where we can help our food service customers get their brands out there in the retail space.
I love the innovation. So you're not just producing dressings and pastas and breads and caviar. You're also helping organizations or partnering with organizations out there to get their sauces and things into homes via the retail vehicle. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about what your role in the company is, Liam.
Well, I would say I have a fairly typical CIO role, but it changed last fall. It's coming up on a year. When I say typical CIO role, and then I'll tell you what part's different. Responsible for all systems, implemented systems, and infrastructure, and cybersecurity reports up through me, master data, all those things you typically think of in a CIO organization, including project management, portfolio management, all those things. I would say a classic CIO position. And those are roles I've had before, which I absolutely love. The connection with the business is just fantastic. You get to learn what the business does. But last fall, the business, our leadership decided to move what we call the COE, which is the business-facing side of our Project Ascent was our ERP implementation. So I may use that term frequently. And when Project Ascent went live, the business-facing folks who were part of that project formed what is now called the COE. So the folks who know logistics execution, procure to pay, on and on, business-facing people who now know why the system was designed the way it was. That COE organization was rolled up underneath me as well.
Okay.
So it's absolutely wonderful because I feel like I have the ability to affect the outcome of the business dramatically. And now, before when I was part of the project, it was talking about all the benefits that we can derive from this new capability, but now the responsibility for delivering them, more so than just the technology side, is also part of my responsibility.
Well, it's love that. Yeah, I love that part because the COE, as I've been rolling around in this business for almost 26 years, and so in my days when I was a consultant, and we used to talk about the importance of a center of excellence and making sure that you had those business people that could come and understand the why we did it and the who and the what and all that stuff, and then also be able to explain that out. So that I often refer to those people as kind of fence sitters. They have one foot in the implementation side of it, but then the other foot in the business, and that's a great place to be because you are able to accommodate and assimilate and understand it all, and hopefully be able to explain, and then those explanations and those evangelizing those messages can help with adoption. So that's pretty cool. I did not know that. So thanks for sharing.
Yep.
Can you help me understand the challenges you face, and how you worked with SAP and your SI to solve, the T Marzetti? I mean, T Marzetti is, as we just talked about, steeped in such history, and it's been around a long time. So I'm sure you had a whole lot of systems, disparate systems, and otherwise, and paper and all that you were running the business on. How did you get to figure out how to move forward and start to modernize your platforms and your solutions?
Well, I'm very humble about the tailwinds that I benefited from the time I arrived here. T Marzetti had attempted to do SAP, or I should say ERP, because for a long time it wasn't determined what ERP we would choose, but SAP was always considered sort of the front runner. Before I got here. And then apparently, as the stories go, it was 5, 6, or even 7 times that they actually formed a group of people to look at it. And each time they stepped away. Our company is fairly risk averse, has been for a long time. And I think that the sentiment was, it's just too risky. And the two things that affected us greatly at the time were our incredible customer loyalty, where we want to never disappoint a customer, and then the risk averseness. given those two criteria, it's awfully hard to decide when to jump in. Our CEO joined the company 2 years before I did, and around the 2-year point, he struck up a conversation. We worked together at Heinz. We had a good relationship. I consider him a great leader and a friend. And he said, Liam, it's time to do ERP, and I'd like you to join Marzetti and be a part of it and get this thing done. The burning platform was a green screen system called Prism, fully amortized, fully implemented, highly customized, but we knew it wasn't going to support our growth ambitions. It sits on an AS400, which is a very reliable platform. As long as you patch it and take care of it, it's not going to fall over anytime soon.
Needs a lot of care and feeding, though.
Yeah. And but we weren't customizing it anymore. It was just really sort of sitting there. So I had a mandate, and I joined the company in December of 2018, and by February, the board approved the project. By April, we were hiring specific roles for the project, and by, I think, May or June, we selected an SI. So, it was, like I said, I've been very fortunate. A lot of CIOs don't get that kind of mandate. It does tie back.
You're usually going the other way. You're usually pushing it uphill.
Exactly. But there is a lesson learned that's tied to that. Let me go ahead and share that with you now.
Yeah, that'd be great.
The caution when you have a strong support from the board and a mandate, we probably should have spent more time on the business case. I mean, when you have a smoldering platform, as we called it, and you have to upgrade and mature, and when you find enough benefits out there to make the case, you might be tempted to stop and say, this will get board approval, and it did. But when we went live and the COE was stood up, and now the boards are saying, where are the long queues of benefits cases that will now start raining from the heavens and start dropping efficiencies to the bottom line and making employees more productive. Those are happening, but it would have been better if the business case before the project actually got started had been extremely exhaustive, and every department head would have had to have signed up for, okay, these are the things I can do on a modern ERP. These are the things I'm committing, these efficiencies, or RPA, all the things that a modern ERP can offer. Instead, we had to start finding them after go live, and it's just been a lot of work. So the caution I would give is, if you have a mandate, don't squander it, but do the hard work and get the business case to be exhaustive.
Right. And so that's a really interesting perspective as I'm kind of thinking about it in my head here. So you had the executive support, and you did have a business case that you went forward with. And so just let's back up a minute and talk to me about the prioritization areas that you were looking to focus on and drive improvement at Team Marzetti. So you had the executive support. Talk to me about some of the other things that you had in your business case that did at least, take you on your journey before you got to the lessons learned, right?
Sure. I think the deep mines that with pockets of ore to be mined, that we knew we could tap into. Trade promotions, we had an installed system, which we weren't happy with. It was not much more than a checkbook. We knew that the retail organization would benefit from a modern trade promotions platform. We went with SAP, trade promotions platform, and we knew that we could probably not only spend less in trade, we believed that we could get more efficiency out of our dollars. So the dollars would be put to work more efficiently, and we'd spend less of them. That was one of the primary drivers. The other drivers were largely in the supply chain, manufacturing, logistics, execution. We had what our CEO used to call the 16 tribes. Each different location operated their own way. They could do things very custom. We didn't have one common set of KPIs or metrics for the business. So we thought that the other efficiencies would come out of supply chain. I should also mention that we also took the opportunity to do a master data program at the same time. And so as we overhauled our ERP, we also overhauled our data and analytics capability. So we're now reaping a lot of benefits from the analytics as well, that sort of, as you know, sits on top of the ERP. Right.
Now, there's two things that I want to cover, so that I want to pull out of what you've just talked about. One is organizational change management. Can you talk a little bit about, what your plan going in was, how it all worked, and then now that you're live, what are you doing to continue to drive that user adoption and change that that goes on when you are doing continuous improvement?
I have to say the OCM is an area where I felt that the CEO and the MLT and the board were just beyond supportive. It's so hard to make the case for OCM because it looks like, the obvious. Why wouldn't people use a new system? Why wouldn't
Right.
they?
It's something. It's part of it's part of what we're doing to improve our business. So they should just jump right on board, right?
Exactly. And why would they be in love with an old green screen solution? It should sell itself. But
Right.
it's not that way. Yeah. I mean, it's a more powerful system, obviously, but it does require the user to act and transact, and a lot of cultural change. So our CEO and the MLT and operating committee were very supportive. We had a fully staffed OCM organization. I mean, 30,000 hours of training, the number of documents we created, and now we have kept those libraries, and we use Enable Now extensively, so now people can go in and they can see how to do things. We really we did what I would call, we cleaned as we went. So
Right.
everything we did was intended to be used again. And as we did it, we created a training document, we put it in the archives, and we created a naming convention so people could find them easily. Now, I would say the OCM did just an amazing job. The training organization did an amazing job. We weren't sure coming out of the project, would the business continue to see the value in that organization? And I'm very proud to say that we have. The OCM team and the continuous improvement team, which is sort of under the same organization, are in heavy demand. The CI team is doing business process mapping all day long. There's an understanding now that a capability in SAP is not just a technological capability, it's married to a business capability. So if we're having, like, we had a problem with intercompany transfers from a finance side of things. And to address it, we didn't just say this is an SAP problem. It's, let's go back to the business process mapping, get the CI team involved, which flows into the OCM team. The OCM team is in heavy demand even 1 year later. I should add one more thing that which has made it particularly difficult, that a lot of people are probably struggling with. The manufacturing segment, I think, across industry is struggling since COVID to keep people. So we're looking at addressing turnover in some of our largest facilities, because if you train somebody then they leave, it's kind of like, it's a lot of wasted effort.
Right. Right. And that's that was what you just took the words out of my mouth. Like, that was that next question. Now that you've been live a while, so how are you maintaining the knowledge base within your organization with the natural flow of people moving in or moving on to new roles, or just leaving, and then likewise onboarding new employees?
It's pretty cool, so the COE will go out when, they have to find time to fit it into the other things they're working on, and they'll do a site assessment, and they'll look at how SAP is being adopted and being used, and then they schedule additional training. I should mention that Signavio is part of our plans to assist us with that ability.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, that's a logical question.
Yeah. When you were talking, I was like, wow, this sounds like Signavio would be a perfect fit here. And it is. That's great.
Yes, we think it will be too, and it will help us find the things that we didn't find on our own. And plus, it's just more efficient. So we do intend to continue to use that CI team, the OCM team, and as soon as we can, aided by Signavio.
And so they're all still intact today. Like, they're an active part of are they part of the COE?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, the way my team is organized, it's kind of cool. So I have, there's the traditional IT parts, but let's just say that the parts that are part of what you would consider the COE and SAP, there's an IT solution owner, which is the IT folks. Then there's the COE folks, which roll up underneath the director. Then there's a stack in the middle that owns PMO, OCM, training, continuous improvement. I call that stack the trains on time stack. So they manage change without being particularly preoccupied over what the change is. We have the COE manages the business change, the IT side manages the IT side, and then the stack in the middle is trains on time. Monthly releases, quarterly releases, continuous improvement. It's a pretty cool organization.
That's really cool. That's really, you don't hear that often where you've got it all still. I mean, there's a couple people, but how big is this team?
The trains on time team is not small. You've got probably 10 in OCM and training. And then you've probably got another 10 split between, no, maybe more than that, maybe 12, between project management, portfolio management, change management, probably another dozen in there as well. So it's probably 22, 25 people.
Okay, so let's go back to the COE. This is pretty cool. So how does the COE then interact with the business? Like, what is there points of contact that go back into the business? Because you're getting information, obviously, and you're pushing information down as needed. But on a day-to-day basis, are those people out there working with, I don't know, managers of the shop floor, or managers or directors of finance? How's that work? Like how do
Yes.
they go? How does the information go back and forth so that they know there's a situation that they need to address with something in their purview?
That's a great question. So last year when they asked me to take charge of the COE, my primary concern would be, will they understand what the COE does? Will there'll be lines at people's desks to talk about procurement, logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, and will the enhancement queues be robust? And will each department head know what's in their enhancement queue? I told the leader that runs that organization, I said, our measure of success is if I can ask a department head, one of the members of MLT, what enhancements they're waiting on, whether it's the next month release or the next quarter release, and they can tell me. And so the COE is, yes, they're out there, but they also have another the thing to help them is that we've done a good job of training and change management, that people out there in the business know if you want a change, you submit what the process is called sprint. So you create a sprint ticket or a ticket in sprint, and then that the machine clicks into motion. A member of the COE will come talk to you if they don't already know about it. More than likely, they do know about it because they're out there talking to them all the time. But then the sprint tickets become the enhancement queue. Once a week, every department head meets with their product owner, which is the people in the COE, and they talk about the priority. And these meetings are absolutely gorgeous. I just sit there like a proud parent.
That's amazing. I love this story.
Yeah, supply chain is just amazing. You have all the direct reports of our chief supply chain officer in the meeting talking about what they need, talking about prioritization, talking about resources. We beat up topics like, okay, which is more important? What if you do this first? Can you push this out a little bit? And those meaty conversations are what I was hoping to see would prosper in the post go live era. And I don't think I'll ever have to defend these headcount again, because if our chief supply chain officer would absolutely throw a fit if we talked about reducing the size of the COE, because he understands that is the benefits engine for this company for the next decade.
100%. Wow, that's pretty cool. All right, so we could talk about this. I could ask many more questions, but let's keep going. Another thing that you mentioned, Clean Core, and I call it the journey to Clean Core. Can you provide a little bit more information on your processes and governments and how you are driving to Clean Core? And I have a feeling it's going to go right back to the COE that we've been talking about.
It will, and it'll actually even go back even further to the day that the CEO asked me to join Marzetti. I said, "All right, Dave, but I need to understand how long are you staying?" And he confirmed he was in it for me. He was as long as I would as long as I needed to be.
Right?
Yeah, right. And because I said the most important role in an ERP implementation is not the CIO, it's the CEO. Because if you want to, as we called it, burn the boats. So you hop off your old green screen system on one side of the island, you set the boats on fire. You're not taking anything with you but the clothes on your back. You walk across the island and hop on your brand new SAP boats and you take off. He was adamant the whole time. We stood up the Office of No, which stood for New Objects, but really everybody knew it was just the Office of No.
I love that, the Office of No.
So if you wanted to make a case for customization, you had to go visit the Office of No. And obviously, there will always be some, but I'd be impressed if I could see a company that was more clean core than we are. Areas where it made more sense to go with a third party like Neptune at the factory floor. And I think SAP is more than happy to partner with those companies that allow that stitching, where it just wouldn't make any sense for SAP to go to that level of detail. So yeah, we the clean core, and I just tell you a quick story. We for our food service business, we decided to go with a different trade promotions platform, and we started the project in January of this year, and we're going to go live in a couple of weeks. And that pace of movement for new projects, what I call intentional nimbleness, is one of the big deliverables coming out of this project would be the ability to do what we want to do faster and not dirty up the environment in the process. So I think 5.5 months to put in a trade promotion solution for our food service business is remarkable. And that comes from doing things right, a pristine analytics environment, one data lake, and a clean core SAP environment. We can go fast. We're now starting to reap the benefits of our good choices upstream.
That's cool. And are you using BTP?
So we are looking at opportunities for BTP. Back when we first started the project, at the time we felt that probably most logical place to integrate things and do automation would be at the data layer. and we'd chosen a Microsoft platform for our analytics package, and it is working well. But we think there will be opportunities where the best solution will be with BTP. We have the flexibility to go either direction right now, but for right now, I'd say we're fairly light users of BTP.
Okay. Okay. Well, listen, it sounds like, well, not sounds like, it's clear that, Team Marzetti is continuing to evolve, and you're going to continue to look at things. You're getting ready to use Signavio. You're using BTP lightly. It sounds like there's some better opportunity for BTP in the future. What other lessons learned do you have for everybody? If you were to sit down with somebody and have a coffee or a beer or whatever your choice of beverages, and they say, "Hey, Liam, I'm getting ready to embark on this giant project," what would you tell somebody that they need to make sure that they are dotting their I's and crossing their T's on?
It's kind of cool because actually I am become friends with a person I met through a Gartner relationship, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
about ready to launch. Yeah, he's about ready to launch his own project. So I'm actually giving him advice right now.
Oh, cool.
I would say your SIs will be important. They will probably oversell their what are the words called, accelerators.
Mm-hmm.
Some accelerators will work out great. Some accelerators will not be as useful as they were marketed. Don't let that surprise you. Just go in with your eyes open, knowing, hey, some of the things they say they're going to just go really fast won't go as fast as we thought. I would say the CIOs, one of their primary jobs is to make sure relationship with the SI is staying positive. Don't let it turn sour. Nobody wins if that happens. If you need to replace a person, just tell them we need to replace the person, and don't get into a nickel and dime situation where you're doing change orders for every little thing. We partnered with Capgemini, and it was a very healthy relationship. We did have to replace a few people, but it worked out fine, and they gave us good people in the areas we needed them. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing about change management. I think in this modern day and age, one thing to look out for is don't assume people are familiar with PC-based technology. We're trying to teach the first site we went live at, some users were cell phone people their entire lives. I mean, the generation we're talking about now may never have sat in front of a PC. They didn't know what a
Right.
mouse was.
Oh, right. You're
They
right. I forgot about this. This is fascinating. Tell this story.
Yeah, they know swipe left and swipe right and pinch and expand. They don't know what a mouse does. They don't know password conventions because they're used to eyeballs and thumbprints. It was a major transition that caught us by surprise. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just the world we're in right now, that they don't know much about PCs. So we had to train them how to use a mouse, had to train them proper password conventions, and just the whole act and transact. And I would say change management is going to be probably bigger than people expect. The location of devices on the factory floor was also something that took a little bit more investigation than we thought. It's not a bad thing. It's like you think something's going to go here, and then you watch it for a while and you go, you know what? It really should probably be placed here for efficiency. And I guess the last thing would be the thing that we've known for years that makes these projects successful are still those same things. You've got to have fantastic executive support, and you've got to staff the team with ringers. We were very fortunate at Marzetti that we had both those things. So I feel like we ran what I called a no excuses project. If we needed something, our CEO was supportive, the MLT was supportive, and we were very judicious about not asking for things that were trivial. We had a very strong internal team as well, but we never put ourselves in a situation where we didn't ask because we were afraid it wouldn't be approved. And we got great support all across the board, and we ran a very no excuses project.
I love it. I love it. So as you were talking about the swipe left and swipe right and thumbprints and eyeballs, it took me back to circa 1992 when I was doing end user training for Windows and showing people what a mouse was. So Liam, we have now lived in our lifetime. You and I have now lived in a time when we were showing people what a mouse was, what Windows were, what all those things were. And now fast forward to 2024, you're now showing that next generation, because the technology has moved so quickly, bringing them kind of back, right?
Yeah.
From swiping left and swiping right. That's fascinating to me.
It really is. And the decision to move to the cloud is something else people have to get used to. The things that run SAP for us are not on premises. They sit somewhere in a facility that I'll probably never visit. And it's just, that now I love that because it allows us to go faster. We can dial up additional capability very quickly. But it is amazing how fast the technology is moving these days.
Yeah, totally. Hey, you mentioned cloud. So that cloud first strategy. So how did that go with, that change management when you were talking about or talking to even your team before, when you were getting ready to launch? Like, how did you introduce and or, communicate like we're going cloud first. This is how we're doing it. Like, how did that go?
Well, I have to admit that prior to coming here, I was never a cloud denier, but I was sort of cloud agnostic. It's like, I thought there might be some case. Yeah, like I sort of thought in my own mind that, some companies may choose to have a data center and other companies, that makes sense. But really for us, it doesn't make any sense at all. And luckily, my predecessor, who deserves a lot of credit, had really launched a cloud strategy before I got here. So we were already
Okay.
heading that direction. But clearly, ERP in the cloud is the promised land. And I think if folks want to get to a point where the total cost of ownership is lower than what they're at now, I'm very proud to say that we're still only the IT spend for Marzetti is about 1.5% of revenue, which is what Gartner would call good. And the reason that is because of our cloud strategy. We don't have a ton of people, I should say, cloud strategy coupled with clean core. I don't have people writing code. I mean, other than integrations and connections, which are also very modernized these days and done with APIs that don't need a lot of care and feeding. We have
Right.
TCS for our AMS support, and they do app maintenance and app support, but I don't have an army of people clicking out custom code left and right. So when you go with a full cloud strategy, including your ERP, everything is out there. You don't need to be writing customizations anymore, and you're able to keep your costs down because you're not hiring armies of people to customize what you just put in. We have never believed that we're going to be doing things with SAP that no one else is going to do. We're a food company. We're a good food company. We want to have our differentiation in areas where, like I described earlier, where a Wendy's corporation wants to come to us and talk to us about help us design a new sauce.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we want to differentiate ourselves. We don't want to differentiate ourselves on how good we are at writing code. So it was very
Yeah,
well
you mean that the
established.
business needs to shine through.
Yep, exactly. So I should give credit to my predecessor who launched that. And then for us,
Okay.
doing SAP in the cloud just made sense.
Wow. Teresa Marzetti couldn't probably have never dreamt of where you have taken the organization, you and your colleagues have taken the organization and the accomplishments that you have conquered and moved forward on. I mean, that's amazing. So tell me one last question. What are your plans as you drive forward? Like, what's in the future for Team Marzetti from a solution perspective? And then do you have AI planned in anything that you have coming up?
We do have AI ambitions. I'm very fortunate. We've got an enterprise architect here who's wicked smart, and he's already building and training models. He's doing it on the Azure platform for now, where a lot of the tools are built in. So, but we aren't, the capability could be done on many different platforms. So right now, I'd say our AI ambitions go down two different prongs. One is employee productivity, which is, okay, what sort of AI tools will help our employees be more productive? And obviously, Microsoft Copilot looms large there. And then
Mm-hmm.
the other path is business applications of AI, which is, okay, consumer trends and consumer preferences and ingredients and consumption of things like that, which is, we believe, going to offer some advantages for us in the future in terms of designing taste solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So but I would say we're going slow on both. We're treating it as a very powerful capability built on top of our existing platforms, SAP and Microsoft. We're treading very slowly on both. In fact, we're not jumping in with both feet on Copilot, and we're not jumping in with both feet on the business side. But we are doing some dabbling, if you will. And like I said, our enterprise architect is already building and training models. He's done one for the consumer side of the business in terms of product management, and then he just recently did one for our HR department. He took salary data that's externally available and put that in a model. So now our compensation team can query this model and get natural language responses out of it. So we have a very talented guy involved, and we formed an AI council that will
Mm-hmm.
start building out business cases for us. And we're just taking it nice and slow.
Wow. Well, Liam, this was great 30 minutes. I could talk to you for another 30 minutes, but I know you've got things to do. It's a beautiful day out there. At least it is here in Philadelphia. And I want to thank you for agreeing to participate and talk with me this morning.
I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you so much for these great questions.
No problem. And we'll look forward to connecting again at some future state to hear what Team Marzetti's up to. So if that works for you, I will be in touch.
It would be my pleasure.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Let's Talk Cloud ERP. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to continue in a smaller, more interactive session, I would like to invite you to sign up for a value exploration workshop. This 2.5-hour interactive call to action session curated for both IT and business leaders will enable you to interact directly with SAP S/4HANA through our SAP S/4HANA ERP simulation game. The simulation game will demonstrate how you can have greater control of your business processes by having members of your team from across business functions such as finance, sales, marketing, and procurement work together to showcase the true power of SAP S/4HANA. The really cool thing about this game is you get the chance to compete and show your team's full profitability potential against other teams. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Value Exploration Workshop and upcoming dates. Finally, I would like to thank the Let's Talk Data podcast for their partnership. We couldn't do what we do without them. Until next time, I am Jennifer Frank McGrory. Have a great rest of your day.